Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I am Duffy Duck here from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my Let's Play of Yoshi's Woolly World for the Nintendo Wii U, or in this case, Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World for the Nintendo 3DS. So last time we did manage to able to completely done with the previous 4 levels in World 3, but consist of by the forms of World 3-3, World 3-4, World 3-5, and especially noticeable for World 3-6. So today for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that hopefully we might as well able to wrap things up with World 3, and eventually we might actually get things started from the very beginning from World 4. So even then though, that seems likely so far anyway though, when it comes to the actual progression of this Let's Play in general. As I mentioned before, that we almost at the halfway point of the game already. Well, assuming if we actually come across into those extra stuff of how this game offers us to, during the actual post-game or somewhat. So even then though, yeah, let's get into the forms of level 3-7, which we have, fanciful, Fluff, and I think it's like Fluff and Feathers, which, as far as I'm aware, the main gimmick of this level, as you can probably tell, is that you know these little clouds right there, that, if you manage to hop onto one of them, you know, if you manage to able to hop onto these little, clouds, basically what happens is that, if you somehow manage to stand there for a little bit longer, what happens is that you might actually sink through it, just like the forms of how it does it on the quicksand from the likes of certain other 2D platformer games, including some of the Mario stuff you know as well. Mainly with the forms of the new Super Mario Bros. Games, basically, that, you know, you can just use the quicksand to able to actually discover some more secrets and all that such. But, except in this game, though, is the fact that it's just clouds and that's all there is to know. And look at that, there's actually a plentiful of, rainbows, coming from the actual skies above. But even then, though, and yeah, just like in the forms of how it does it in Yoshi's Island, basically you can able to actually step onto these little birds, as you can see right there, until you're able to actually use them as platforms. So even then, though, it will be very helpful though, especially because that, I get a strong feeling about this level though, is the fact that it contains like a giant bottomless pit down below. So either way though, there's not much else to really say about this for the most part. So even then though, and yeah, every once in a while though, is the fact that we might actually just decide to come across into those birds that does not have feathers once in a while. But either way though, we'll show that off whenever we're able to continue proceeding for this point. Especially noticeable that I'm most likely going to have to focus on, you know, other sort of collectibles, including just manage to get into this pipe we go. And hopefully though, without any sort— what the hell? How do I just manage to get hit by that? That's just pretty unfair. So anyway, today's day is, of course, the forms of today's day is the 13th of September on Friday, aka the unlucky day for today, because, well, I just had a feeling about the fact that, unlike in Lucky 7 Day from the likes of, I would say so far, when it comes to the forms of this year, when it comes to, like, the forms of the lucky days of 7s or somewhat, it might be pretty tough to able to actually just to think of, aside from— you know, in last year we got ourselves the 7th of December on Friday, which appears to be the lucky day, because thanks to the forms of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has been just, you know, released for that time. But either way though, that's as far as I can say about it. And, looks like, unfortunately, seemingly to say, is the fact that, well, this might be the most unfortunate, unlucky day for me, because you can definitely tell why whenever we're able to actually just to discuss upon this though. But, let's now get into the actual main focus of the actual unlucky day from now on, because, well, first of all, there are quite a few things I just want to briefly touch upon for this point. First of all, oh yeah, I just need to able to activate this. Oh, son of a biscuit, stupid bird. Oh, wait. I don't think— yeah, I get a feeling that— oh, Jesus Christ. I have no idea what I'm doing right there. Because I was expecting I, wasn't paying attention, because, most of these little seagulls, or these, birds, decided able to actually hurt me in the process. Because, yes, like any forms of how it does on Yoshi's Islands, is that if you somehow accidentally get touched by them, you somehow get hit. And plus, as a result, though, although the only noticeable thing about this is that you don't have to worry about looking after Baby Mario, because Baby Mario was nowhere to be seen in this game though, because, well, it's some sort of like a different approach to Yoshi, that's for sure. And then from here, I believe we actually come across into this next Yoshi Transformation, which we now have Sky Pop Yoshi soar gracefully through the skies, shoot mighty orbs by pressing B. So it kind of reminds me of those specific segments from the likes of Super Mario Land for the Game Boy, but except the fact that the biggest differences between this and Super Mario Land is of course, it's all in color, and plus we're not on a handheld or anything like that. Well, I would say it technically counts as a handheld device because of, you know, if you manage to obtain the actual 3DS version of the game, that it plays out exactly the same thing, except, well, it just adds a little bit more extra content than the forms of how it does it on the Wii U version, where it still has relatively the same stuff as the forms of the Wii U version, but with the extra side stuff. But even then, I couldn't imagine how the fact that it could able to actually port this game for a second time from the Nintendo Switch. I mean, that would be insanely crazy, but seemingly to say, it was being replaced by you know, Yoshi's Crafted World instead, which I don't mind it because, well, makes it a little bit of a different style to the actual game like that, but, anywho though, yeah, before we get to the forms of some other stuff is worth mentioning though, is the fact that, well, if you guys can clearly tell by this point, is the fact that, well, at some point or another, during the later levels, there were plenty of times I was able to actually get myself screwed over, especially noticeable that, get it, because this is the unlucky day today, because, well, you guys can clearly tell about the fact that 13 was a definition of the unlucky number indeed. Thankfully though, whenever we get to October and onwards, well, we're not going to come across into Unlucky 13 Day anytime soon until 2020. So even then though, because, relatively speaking, there's not much else to really discuss upon. Well, there's also quite a few things I just want to briefly touch upon something, is the fact that, well, during the forms of, Tokyo Game Show, during the forms of about, yesterday actually, as well as the forms of a surprising new thing, although sadly it might actually disappoint me a little bit, but it turns out about the fact that, well, we'll get to that until later. But for now, new stuff by the forms of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 has been happened for the Nintendo Switch, which, basically, it just shows us the actual story mode footage, as well as some events, mini games, and etc. Which I could assure to you about the fact that with these mini games that we've seen in several trailers earlier ago, especially noticeable with the Japanese overview trailer, that you notice that we come across into quite a few of those mini games, which I could assure to you that it does mainly focuses on Mario and Sonic in a 2D plane, as well as Luigi and Tails' mini games throughout in the forms of the actual, well, Tokyo 2020 world. I can assure you this might be something related to the story mode objectives or somewhat, which even then though, spoiler alert for those who have not even looked it up yet, well, sure that game wasn't out yet until, you know, 2 months time, but even then I'm really pumped for that though. And also another thing is the fact that, speaking of Sonic at the Olympic Games, is that recently the debuted trailer for Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 in the iPhone devices / Android devices actually has been announced as a new trailer. And if I say to myself, it might look a bit different from what I've used to with Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, but except the fact that the main focus is of course the Sonic characters, of course. So I'll meet you guys back onto the forms of finding the fifth and the final Smiley Flower, and I should meet you back to the hub world. Alright, so I'm actually onto this point right here, and it seems so far anyway though, whenever I got to this bit on the first attempt though, I accidentally managed to able to actually touch the actual estimation mark bead, so as a result of this kinds of stuff, that's the perfect example about the fact that I seemed able to miss that out, so there we go. So I made you guys back at the world map. Alright, another jump cut, and we managed to now finally return onto that particular world map. And I think we've already got to ourselves into the final 2 levels. So even then though, everything else will be doubly checked, except with that particular flower sketch thing right here, which I was supposed to able to actually get that, but unfortunately, seemingly to say, I don't think I can get I don't think I can get a chance to able to do so. But anyway, Now let's move on to the forms of the actual, the castle level of any sorts in World 3, which appears to be World 3-8, Miss Cluck, the Incensory Castle. Well, in this case, some sort of like a chicken of any sorts. Because, you know, we've already come across into... Oh, what the heck, hello? Anyways, though, so yeah, the main gimmick of this level, as you can see, is that, you know, with these little, white puff of smoke that we've already just managed to come across into ever since in, level 3-5, well, we now need to be able to utilize them as the forms of the true platforming department. Because if you somehow manage to don't deal with all that kinds of stuff, though, well, you're not going to go anywhere with it. So either way, though, we'll, leave it up to that. So, yeah, that's pretty sweet stuff for that specific point, for that, you know, the new stuff has been announced for, you know, like, for instance, you know, Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, and, what I've noticed something is the fact that with the actual new trailer of that particular game, they shows us about the forms of some of the events we're able to look like, for instance, we still got the exact same usual events ever since on Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, but except noticeable differences this time around, though, is the fact that, well, it shows us some of these events that there aren't any forms of in Mario and Sonic version, and that was the fact that with the actual skate shooting. Well, apart from the fact that we've already had these shooting events from before, well, at least they've already had the actual shooting events in Tokyo 1964 mode, or the variation of that specific event. But either way, though, we'll mention more now whenever we get to that certain point. Especially noticeable how the fact that maybe Sonic were able to get back into Kingdom Hearts Final Mix tomorrow. So because of that though, yeah, you probably get the idea. So anyways, let's go ahead and take them out. And oh shoot, I don't think that might be a good idea because, well, if I can assure to you, because, well, I don't think we can able to actually reach up there, so... Hold on a second, could I try with that particular, enemy bounce? Nah, it's not high enough, so... I guess I have to, like... Yeah, I guess I might as well restart for this particular point, because... There's no way we can able to backtrack or anything like that, and yeah, we actually now come across into these, yellow chicks and stuff like that, which can able to hurt you, so... Yeah, at this point, I think we should probably restart this level, so because of this, though. Thankfully, we're not that far from here, though, but it's just that I think this is the prime example about the fact that, you know, obviously today is the unlucky 13th day, after all, so even then, though, sometimes I always get bad lucks in some situations, so yeah, that's a pretty much offset for my department right there, but either way, though, yeah, apart from all that size of things, with Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 will be coming to the iPhone devices and all that such. It turns out about the fact that with the actual playable roster so far for just only mainly focus on Sonic characters, of course, because, well, Mario sure has already managed to able to join in with the Tokyo 2020, of course. That will be on the Nintendo Switch exclusive, including the arcade machines next year. So, either way, though, we'll get to that at some point next year. So, the playable characters they're going to be included on the forms of Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 on the iPhone devices so far, which there are Amy Rose, Cream the Rabbit of all things, ever since in Rio 2016 Olympic Games on the 3DS, and, obviously Dr. Eggman, Blaze the Cat, and Chummy B of all things, which could be the newcomer into the forms of the Olympic Games department, because I'm pretty dang sure about the fact that there will be, well, there is Orbot and Cubot in the game as well, but they might actually act out as like some sort of a host to the game or somewhat, which I'm not exactly sure why that Cream was no longer going to be playable in the console version of specifically Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games on Mario and Sonic game. But either way, though, it's just a little bit of some sort of a limitations of characters roster for that department. But, yeah, it's pretty, you know, surprising moment right there. And also, much like the console version of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, they're obviously going to be including, Espio the Chameleon, as well as, Jet the Hawk, as well as Rouge the Bat, and also Zavok. So, even though that's, who knows, we're able to actually find out when that particular game is about to due out at some point in spring next year. So, might be a little bit of a good opportunity that we can able to likely, just to play that around the same time as when Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games should start. So, and as for the events on that though, well, we've already mentioned about this before, about the fact that, well, there won't be skate or trip shooting on that specific Mario and Sonic version. But on the other hand though, we did have the some sort of a handful of events that sort of feels a bit similar to the forms of how it does it on Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. But stuff like 100 meters, which is already there, and archery, badminton, fencing, and I think that's about it, obviously. But one thing is a little bit more, not so much in the forms of the appearances of that. Although I really do apologize with the actual commentary for this point, folks, because then again, not much else to really talk about this, apart from, just talking about Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 again, because, I'm pretty damn excited to able to actually just to play that game, because after all, I've managed to got 5 games so far on the console treatment, and then still only 4 for the handheld department. Well, as far as I want to able to actually just expect that, because, well, you can obviously now play Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 anywhere you go, like either the actual console or just a handheld device. So technically it's more accurately 6 console installments. Well, at the same time, although I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure enough though there will be the 5th handheld installment or something. Well, at least if you really want to count for likely for the Nintendo Switch Lite or somewhat, especially noticeable with so that you can play on tabletop mode or handheld mode specifically. So yeah, that's that. And also another thing is worth mentioning though is the fact that recently for the next Nintendo Switch game has recently released today in the most unlucky day ever, and that was the fact that with Damien Diamond X Monica, which again I don't know exactly how to pronounce that game very well, I must admit though, because well, to be honest I haven't really played that much of that game though, because it I just didn't think it wasn't that interest me. Well, I didn't like the forms of how the fact that, well, it might be pretty okay for some parts, but I'm probably not gonna get it because, well, for one thing, I did see so many reviews complaining about the fact that with the combat stuff, it might actually get slightly repetitive after playing for a long period of time. And aside from that though, the visuals do look okay for the most part, especially on the Nintendo Switch. Well, it wasn't nearly as high as the forms of how it does it on of course, Super Mario Odyssey, as well as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And heck, even with the forms of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, looks damn near gorgeous to look at in those 3 games so far. And, speaking of the forms of those kinds of games like that, although before I get into more details onto that specific other news to talk about, here we go with another new boss. So let's see what this actually involves this time. You are still trying to get in my way. How rude. Hey, Miss Cluck. Get over here. Watch where you're going. Ah, there. Never mind that. I just to work and blow that annoying Yoshi away. Oh, you think you can get away with that, Chemic? Well, it seems to be more accurate though. Here we go with this next boss, as you can see right there. And this might generally be the easiest boss in the game, in my opinion. Well, because of this though, this little ribbon part right there? Well, we need to unravel that and then to able to find out the actual weak spots when it comes to this particular enemy, or that boss in general. Which, just like the forms of how it does it on most other bosses throughout for this game so far, well, usually you can only unravel that particular woolly part at least once on the first phase, and then the second phase we need to able to unravel twice, and then the third and final phase we need to unravel 3 times. If you somehow manage to use the woolly balls onto this guy though, you can able to actually stun him, which even then that really do help you throughout, especially noticeable if you really can't afford to able to miss out on attacking him. So, and then, as far as progression so far for this particular boss, it will start to get a little bit tricky and difficult to avoid, but honestly, this boss is not too bad though. It is actually pretty easy too at the same time. So relatively speaking, if you manage to know what you're doing, then you should be okay. But then again, that always recommends you're able to use the woolly balls most of the time, so that way you could able to actually stun this little particular clock for almost like for about a few seconds notice. So, but even then, the only thing you need to avoid though is, of course, getting to the bottomless pit will be a bad idea. So even then, oh no, I don't think so. So you're too slow for that. So there we go. That takes care of this level, and seems more accurately though, we pretty much almost done with World 3, because even then though, we've only got one last level left before we move on to the forms of the next world, which is World 4, and that is of course the special world of this particular world. So, relatively speaking, oh boy, a lot of things to work on with. So, anywho though, another thing's worth mentioning though is the fact that while we're going to be able to go for this specific stuff, speaking of the game's awards, as far as I'm trying to say for this point, the game's awards, or the Game Awards 2019, will be about to be there until when it gets to the point until the 12th of December this year. So even then, we've already got about likely 4 months to take over, or no, not so much 4 months because we've already had September already. But to be more accurate, 3 months to go until when the Game Awards showcase or the actual show itself might be approaching. So God knows whoever get the forms of the Game Awards for this year, but even then we'll find things out when we get to approaching to December. So, anyways, so now we actually access to World 4 now, and well, before we get into the forms of World 4, of course we need to be able to focus on this particular special world first. So even then we're able to do that. Here we go with the forms of Will It Bill. Although before we do anything else like this, and good thing for me, I can able to actually use one of the badges for about try 1 for free. So even then I was able to use this again. So even then I was able to actually just do that. So yeah, because although it might be seems redundant though, because well, most of these collectibles are pretty easy to spot. So Will It Bill's Last Ride. So it's gonna be thrilling. Okay, if you did not notice already from the start, well, this level could be hell for me, because, well, oh, Jesus Christ, it took me for about 10 minutes just to able to memorize the actual level, or to be more accurately, more than 20 minutes as a result, because, well, this is what makes this the actual special worlds at later on, especially in this world in particular. Mind you, the only good thing about this is that this particular level is very short, but the ultimate challenge about this level though, compared to the rest, is that you really can't afford to able to be left behind, or especially noticeable, you really can't fall down to the bottomless pit. But if you want to go for the ultimate challenge by going for the actual level without even taking a hit, well, good luck for you, because as you can tell, that's from the start of the level, especially noticeable towards the end of the level, well, basically we're coming towards the forms of those Monty Moles. And what these Monty Moles, you might be wondering? Well, they just able to actually chase after you this whole entire time, which even then we've already come across into those Monty Moles from before, but now they make it a little bit more chaotic, and it's also kind of annoying to deal with if you're trying to deal with the no damage run. And that was the fact that they keep on walking back and forth every time whenever you're trying to go for the exact same opposite directions as when Monty Mole was supposed to go to. So even then definitely a lot harder when it comes to this particular special world, but even then whenever I managed to did on my test practice of this particular level, I almost got rage quit all of a sudden, because well, if you're not fast enough though, well, you're probably not gonna make it, and plus without any checkpoints whatsoever. Oh yeah, I completely forgot. You know what that particular bullet bill that we've already discovered ever since any forms of the castle level in World 3? I suggest you do not get rid of that bullet bill at all in the entire level, because if you somehow do, well, you need to also restart the entire level. So, relatively speaking, this is generally the most difficult level in the whole entire World 3. And especially noticeable, it doesn't help about the fact that if you manage to able to get on top of the bullet bill for the whole time, and then you do realize about the fact that that particular bullet bill, shaped like a bullet bill, managed to able to block off the actual exit. So either way though, definitely a little bit tricky though, and as a result though, I almost get a little bit frustrated with this level sometimes, because well, especially if you really can't afford to take a hit at least once, because, well, if you somehow get hit, well, at least if you get hit at least once, well, you're basically done, because, well, if you somehow get hit multiple times, well, it can be pretty frustrating in some scenarios like this, for instance. But anyway, and thankfully though, that bonus game did manage to make me deserve that, because, well, I can just simply just go after more of those beads. So, relatively speaking, that should be good to go for this point. So, and another thing is worth pointing out. Oh yeah, let's get to the forms of the new Nintendo thing has been just announced during the forms of yesterday. And that was the fact that we actually come across into a new fitness game, which is about time ever since in Wii Fit U, ever since on the Wii U, despite the fact that the Wii U selling points was actually pretty miserable. But even then though, we actually got ourselves a new the new fitness game at long last for the Nintendo game. But even then though, I'm afraid to say that out of all the actual Nintendo fitness games we actually stumbled across, especially for some announcements, because, well, compared to the forms of 2008 and especially noticeable in 2009, I was so excited to able to actually just to play through Wii Fit for, you know, just simply play it on downstairs and upstairs, because, well, I can't really do that upstairs because it will make it incredibly loud, obnoxious, and it's especially noticeable you can able to actually just manage to break through the downstairs ceiling, which can be a little bit nuisance, especially on Xbox 360 Connect of all that stuff of all things. But either way though, that we'll discuss in a later time. But for now on though, yeah, let's get into the forms of the first level in World 4, as you can see, monkeying round and round. Which I believe, for this particular level, I think we might actually come across into, what else? The insane amount of monkeys. And as you can see, we actually got ourselves the GameCube Yoshi, because I really like the actual detail about the GameCube Yoshi, because with these little, curved sides on this, back of its head, it actually represents the color of the actual GameCube controller, as well as for that little, hatch thing right there, that, you know, when Mario managed to able to ride on Yoshi for this whole time, back in Super Mario World, basically, that acts out like very similar color as the C-Stick for the GameCube controller, which I think it does make it a little bit more of a pleasing detail to look at, especially because, well, you know, about the fact that with these special worlds in mind, it goes from these costumes ranging from, you know, different colors between the most current generation of consoles all the way back to the past. So, but even then, we'll go through all that whenever we're able to actually go and, you know, continue proceeding for this game. So even then, once again, folks, I do apologize for the lack of commentary and all that such, because, well, not much else to really say about it. So even then, we'll leave it up to that. So, yeah, anyway, let's mention about the forms of that new fitness game that has just been announced recently. And that was the case about the fact that we actually come across into a new peripheral of all things for the Nintendo Switch, which is actually pretty cool. And what? Wait. No. Please don't you ever dare. No! Son of a biscuit, monkey. Son of a biscuit. Oh, that was a really bad attempt for that specific beginning part. But anyway, yeah, with the new peripheral, they actually did announce, with the forms of the new Nintendo software game, especially with the new fitness game, of course, the new peripheral they did announce is, you know what that particular teaser trailer for that specific control, or that peripheral that we've already mentioned ever since about a week ago? Relatively speaking, that particular peripheral was actually known as Ring Con, which basically what that is basically it's like a ring, but you can able to actually place the Joy-Con with it. So that's pretty interesting to say the least. But even then, I can usually expect it able to actually see how this will turn out, especially with alongside with the forms of the Ring Con. This also includes the actual link strap or the leg strap, which you can able to actually insert your Joy-Con for anything, which I was assuming that you can able to only place the right Joy-Con on the Ring Con, and for the leg strap you can only insert the actual left Joy-Con, which I think that's pretty obvious, because you know with that the IR motion sensor thing that we've already able to actually notice about this by this point, well, despite with this Switch Lite is pretty much lacking with features, the fact of the matter is, though, is the fact that I think, though, what that does is that it can able to actually track in with your heart rating or something, which, yeah, the only particular game that only supports on that particular accessory, however, though, at the moment, which is, Ring Fit Adventure, which I will say, that's a pretty dumb name, I have to say, for this as for this matter, because, well, I was gonna be expecting to able to see for likely Nintendo Switch Fit will be able to be on there, but no, instead it was actually by the forms of you know, Ring Fit Adventure, and that's all there is to know. And if I've seen the gameplay footage of it so far, I don't know, it's okay, I guess, but again, nothing that remarkable though to me though, unlike the forms of how it does it on that the Wii Fit series. Well, despite with the Wii Fit U, does manage to able to offer some more events from the forms of the first two versions of Wii Fit. Although, to me though, I think Wii Fit Plus is the most definitive way playing Wii Fit to begin with, because, well, does have a lot more events, and it's also, I had a pretty much a blast to play through on that specific matter. Well, don't get me wrong, Wii Fit U was definitely good, don't get me wrong, despite I haven't exactly owned it, because, well, I just really can't afford to do fitness onto the Wii U to begin with. And, as a matter of fact, though, is the fact that whenever I managed to see the gameplay footage of, you know, the Ring Fit Adventure, it feels likely a combination of both, I would say by the forms of likely, I would say the exact same feeling for how it does it in Sonic and the Secret Rings, especially noticeable with the, Sonic and the Black Knight as well, is that you'll be completely on rails, for the whole entire time. And it's, aside from those side of things, aside from you can able to get some exercise going, which is okay, I suppose, but it's pretty good. But, also, to top it off, is the fact that it's almost like an action-adventure RPG kind of syndrome like this. Well, usually kind of think about it though, because, well, if you stumble across the actual random enemy that is usually blocking your path, that actually replicates you actually going to be participating in for the actual RPG elements, which, sure enough though, it does happen to be the RPG thing, of course, but, every time you're able to kill the enemy or some specific objectives you're doing, basically they actually manage to able to actually just, give you some experience points every time you do so. And to top it all off though, anyway, though, is the fact that it will able to get ourselves the release date for, you know, Fit Ring Adventure, or the Ring... I found that name to be kind of stupid, honestly. But, anyway though, the actual release date for that particular game is about to due out at some point in the 18th of October, which is roughly exactly the same week as the forms of how it does it on the Celebration release from the new Shaun the Sheep the movie, which is Farmageddon, and especially noticeable with some other games, or especially noticeable with some other stuff you know too, which I'm probably not going to mention about it too much though, because, well, we've already just asked, as far as I'm aware, that we almost at the halfway point of September already, which hopefully by this point in time, folks, is that we'll definitely get out to upload some of these stuff very, very fast and quick before something else will happen, because, well, we're just getting sick of, like, you know, just trying to delay some parts, especially because about the fact that I'm feeling incredibly bad for August, because despite the fact that we have, you know, not done a single, marathon for this year though, compared to 2017 and 18, which we actually did that pretty good on that so far. But aside from that though, for 2019, there are some good things about it, like the quality on that terrible Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric was a bit average, but either way though, because that game is just a tragic mess. But even then though, and aside from everything else though, with the actual recording sessions for this matter, especially with the Sonic Boom Shadow Crystal, when we did manage to test that out, and it didn't work very well half the time, because, well, my phone storage also has some lot of issues for the time, which, hopefully though, by until when it gets to the point until November though, on the other hand though, I should be able to get the more upgraded version of that smartphone to begin with, so, alongside with able to actually get the tons of games to begin with, like, you know, I mentioned this before, Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, as well as Mario Kart Tour, which we've only got about 12 more days to go, or in this case, lesser than 12 days to go at this point, which I'm super hyper about, and, I should be pretty excited, able to actually try that game out at some point whenever that game comes out. So, and aside from everything else though, when it comes to news alike, I'm afraid to say that's all I can really say. So even then though, I think for that time and go forth is the fact that, as I mentioned this before, I think we should probably take a break on this game for a while until when it gets to the point until next month, roughly. And as a result of those kinds of stuff, though, we're definitely going to have to hopefully finish this Let's Play up at some point in November or October. It really depends on the forms of how long some of these Let's Plays will take. But even then, though, we'll figure this one out, though, especially when we get to 2020, we're able to actually do something completely different for the change. So anyway, anywho though, folks, we'll go ahead and end things off at this point right there. So join me next time on Let's Play Yoshi's Woolly World. Here's the fact that we're able to actually continue things on with World 4 by going through World 4-2, and eventually some of these levels can go a little bit longer than the forms of the previous one. So see you guys then. Later, fellas.